We are here with OmgPuppies. How is it going? Patreon supporter. We're doing a different game today that I've never seen before. This is Magic the Gathering Puzzle Quest. If you've played this before, let me know down in the comments below. I've never seen this card, let alone played the game. So I'm super excited to see some cards, and we're going to evaluate 5 cards from this game. And then we'll kind of get the gist of how the game is supposed to be played out as well as we're going. So if you have never seen this game before and you're a Magic the Gathering fan, it is super interesting to me, so hopefully it's super interesting to you as well. OmgPuppies, let me know a little bit of background about yourself in card games and why you started playing this game and kind of all that.
So I used to play Paper Magic fairly regularly. I haven't played it in a long time, in a few years. And when I did, I played pretty much exclusively Modern. I got it. I don't actually recall where I first heard of this. It might have been in one of the Loading Ready Run videos. But it was inspired, of course, by the fact that I like Paper Magic. And this is based on it. I have not really played any other card games. I played like one game of Hearthstone once, and that's about it.
So for those of you who aren't familiar with this, I got like a little bit of a background before this video started, but it has a lot of cards that are similar to Magic cards. Some of the keywords are a little bit different, and you make mana by doing it like the almost like a Pokemon Puzzle League thing, where you have to put the pieces together, kind of like Tetris, or what game that you mentioned, Bejeweled, that you can put the pieces together. And that makes your mana. So it's a little bit different than the way mana is generated in Magic, but there's still creatures, there's still combat, there's still keywords, there's still life totals and things like that. There's still mana costs. So I'm super excited to evaluate some of these cards, and you'll see, I'll ask some questions and you'll see how everything's supposed to work together as the video goes. But I'm excited to see the first cards.
Okay. Now let me teach you how to read this. The symbol in the upper right corner indicates that this is a spell card, which essentially means a sorcery. The 9 underneath is the mana cost. And this game, mana costs and numbers in general are much higher than in Paper Magic. The border between the art and the text indicates the color or colors of this card, which in this case is Esper, white, blue, black. You can read the text itself, and if you have any questions, I can explain that.
I'm happy to see this card and evaluate this in this game, because I know exactly what this card is in real life, and I've played with this card, Void Rend. It is a 3 mana Esper, white, blue, black instant in paper, and the card itself says, it's not in Puzzle Quest, says destroy target non-land, without even reading the effect first, destroy target non-land permanent, this spell can't be countered. That's all the card says. So let me see what it says in this game. Can't have its mana drained or raised. I'm not sure what mana drain or raising is.
So what that means is, in this game, mana doesn't go away between turns. You can like make a down payment. You could pay 6 mana into this thing one turn, and then the next 3 the next turn. Now, there are a few cards, this is not common, but there are a few cards that say drain mana from a card in your hand, which would basically mean, you know, you made the down payment, well, somebody came along and grabbed your payment off the counter, now the store you were trying to buy from doesn't have that money.
Okay.
And raised is a very similar, it means that there are cards that say cards in your opponent's hand cost, you know, X amount more. And so that would be mana raising rather.
Okay, so
basically what this is saying is you
basically like kind of can't be messed with.
Yeah, yes, exactly. They can't be messed with. They're can't be messed with in those. There are ways to mess with things. There's a support that says, you know, next time your opponent casts a spell, counter it and this support is destroyed, that sort of thing. But for the most part, yeah, this can't be messed with.
That's cool, because it kind of goes in line with what Void Rend does in paper. I don't know if you expected me to know what this card was in paper, but
I guarantee you that there are at least 2 other cards in here that you will immediately recognize.
Okay. I'm not sure if you were surprised or not that I recognized this one, though. Because this is a fairly recent card.
I didn't really think that.
Okay, and I know your experience with Magic is before Pioneer came out, so you might not have seen this card in actual paper. So let's read the rest of the card. Destroy an opposing Vanguard support. I don't know what a Vanguard support is. Is it?
So
I don't know what support is. Is it a certain type of support?
Yes, a Vanguard is essentially a Planeswalker card. They are technically supports. They work a bit differently from many supports. I explained to you in the initial thing about how supports have shields, which are sort of their life. It uses shields for loyalty.
Nice.
And one thing that's interesting about Vanguard supports is that there's a lot of effects that say, you know, destroy an opposing support. Unless it explicitly says this includes Vanguard supports, it cannot destroy a Vanguard support.
Okay, so this is like destroy. This is like destroy anything, but if it would destroy a Vanguard support, but it doesn't destroy anything, right? It can't destroy creatures in Puzzle Quest, and it can't destroy like artifacts and enchantments. It can't destroy supports.
Well, keep reading. Keep
Oh,
reading.
got it. Sorry. If you can't destroy target opposing creature, if you can't destroy an opposing support. Oh, so it does destroy everything. Okay, got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you can't, usually means that there is no valid target for you to destroy.
Okay. Does this mean that you can't destroy an opposing support if they have a creature? You have to destroy the creature first?
Yes, unless the creature is like hexproof or something like that. But in general, yes.
Interesting. Oh my gosh. I mean, okay, in standard, and this is in standard in this game as well, right?
Yes.
Okay.
You can tell the mana cost. The background color indicates its legality. In this case, its background is black, which means it's in standard. If it were not, background would be blue.
Oh, got it. Okay. And blue is in Legacy.
Yes, everything is in Legacy.
Okay. So this card, and it's also Streets of New Capenna. You can see by the Streets of New Capenna symbol on the bottom, which is super cool.
Yeah.
It's a weird feeling evaluating a card that you already know how good it is in one game, but you don't know how good the same exact card is in a different game. In standard, this card is just okay, borderline bad, because the mana cost is just so taxing. The white, blue, and black pips for a 3 mana card that just destroys something, it's a little bit too high of rate. Usually it would be like on a 2 mana card, and this card would be very good. But like a card like Get Lost would be in Magic, where it says destroy target planeswalker or enchantment or creature, and then your opponent gets 2 map tokens. That's 1 and a white, which is a much, much better card. So the mana cost actually just makes the card worse. And then it's weird evaluating in this game, like how good is the mana cost of 9 in this game? You said that 6 is like a pseudo 1 mana card, like it's the least amount of mana that you can possibly pay. The fact that you can put mana into this, and then the next turn you can put more mana into this, and the mana can't be changed. I'm not sure if removal spells in this game are 6 mana. I'm not sure if they even exist. But I would think that the extra 3 to cast this and to be able to kill a Vanguard and nothing else would kill a Vanguard for the most part, I'm going to actually say that this card is good in this game.
Yeah, this card is very good. This is top tier removal.
Yes.
And there's one thing that I thought might trip you up. And this is kind of an interesting thing about the way multicolored cards work. In Paper Magic, if a card is multicolored, unless it's hybrid, that means it's harder to cast. It fits in fewer decks. In this game, if a card is multicolored, that makes it easier to cast because your planeswalker only has to share 1 color with the card.
Wow.
So there are 26 possible color identities you can have because there's no 4-color walkers. This card goes in 23 of them.
Oh my goodness. This is like what you'd play on max copies in like
everything
any deck.
Except red. Yeah, everything except red, green, and Gruul this card goes into. And what's also interesting is I mentioned earlier that the color pie is similar to in Magic. Well, this means if your card destroy target creature is not an effect that blue normally gets. This card is blue. You can do it with a mono blue walker. You can have that effect, and it gives you that.
Wow, that is so much better than in paper.
Yeah. So it's almost like every card is hybrid, essentially.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, it is a little awkward that you don't get to choose which of the things you're going to destroy. Vanguard supports creatures. It just chooses whichever one. But that's the order it's going in here is kind of usually the order that you would pick anyway. Planeswalker cards are more important than creatures. Creatures are more important than supports generally. There are exceptions. There have definitely been times when I've been frustrated that this isn't going to destroy the thing I wanted it to destroy. When this card actually first came out, it was a bit different. Instead of destroy target opposing creature, it said destroy their first opposing creature, which was kind of better and worse at the same time. It was worse because you don't get to pick. Maybe there's a different creature you prefer to destroy. But it was better because since it didn't target, that meant it got around hexproof and ward and things like that. Ward in general is harder to get around in this game than Paper Magic. As I mentioned, I haven't really played much with Ward, but I do sort of keep up with. I know people play Magic, and I hear about recent developments.
So it's funny that you haven't played Paper Magic since in a while, but you're seeing the Paper Magic cards because they're in this game. If you still play this game, you know.
Yeah,
which is pretty cool.
Yeah. Now for the next one,
we're 1-0 so far. Let's go.
I can guarantee you will have heard of this card in Paper Magic.
It's gonna be Grizzlebrand or something. Oh, Umezawa's GTA. I was close. I was yeah. Wow. Does the
Okay,
symbol
so
above the 8 count as like a mythic?
no, the circle there means that this is a support.
Okay.
And in the bottom right of the art, you'll notice the shields with a 4 in it.
Mm-hmm.
That means it comes into play with 4 shield. And in the bottom left of the art, there's that thing that looks sort of like the top of a pillar. That means that this card is legendary. Now, there's no legend rule in this game. Legend does not come in with any built-in rules meaning, but there are cards that care about legendary status. Legend cards count as historic, that sort of thing.
I'm actually like I have a question. Like, what is the pace of this game? Like, how fast does a match finish?
It's very variable. So, as I mentioned, legacies will generally be faster than standard, as you might expect. Um, if you're playing like a fair deck, that just attacks with creatures and goes for the win,
Mm-hmm.
it can go like 10 turns.
Is that like 20
An
minutes?
individual turn, however, what?
Is that like 20 minutes?
10 turns for each player, I mean. I'm sorry?
Is that like 20 minutes? Like how actually like how much
Oh,
actual
no,
time?
no, not anything like that long. It's the games will generally have more turns than a paper magic game, but each turn is significantly shorter than a paper magic turn.
Okay, so like in one game, like on average, maybe even including like control decks and aggregate decks, like in your average, like what's the average length of actual time that one match would take?
5 minutes, maybe a bit less.
Wow. Okay, I was asking because kind of want to get a glimpse of like how fast an aggro deck can kill and like how slow it is for a control deck, and also kind of mid range strategies, but also because like I might want to like actually get this game and play it in my spare time on my phone if I just like if I don't want to play Arena on my phone in my spare time, because Arena games can last like 10 minutes. Do I want to play that on my phone if I'm like out like waiting in line shopping somewhere, like or do I want to like hit up one of these games in the meantime?
Yeah. One interesting thing about this game that may actually make it easier if you're worried about it taking too much time. So you don't there's 3 kinds of game. There's PvE, which is pretty much what it sounds like. Then there's something that they call PvP, but isn't really. You sign up, you join an event, and it registers your deck, and you play against the decks that other people who joined up playing, but you're not actually playing against that human being. You're playing against the computer, which is playing their deck.
Hmm.
And it's the AI, the computer brain that's in charge of this. The fandom has nicknamed it Greg, for reasons I don't want to get into right now. And as a programmer myself, I'm honestly really impressed with how well Greg plays, but at the same time, it is not as playing as well as a good human. But considering the sheer variety of effects and different kinds of decks you can play, it's really impressive that it can play, frankly, at all.
That's cool.
But so one advantage of this is it means you don't have to worry about, if you're interrupted by something, you just put your phone down, come back to it later. The computer's not going to get bored. The computer's not going to rage at you,
Make an action.
finish your turn or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now there is also true PvP gameplay, but you can only play that against other members of your coalition, which is sort of like a guild, and there's no stakes for that. That's just something you do for fun.
Okay, cool. All right, let's get to Umezawa Jite then. This is an 8 mana.
Mhm.
You said it has like 4 shield, support card, artifact, equipment. When your first creature deals combat damage to your opponent's planeswalker. Oh, so it doesn't say Vanguard in this case.
No. So a Vanguard is a planeswalker card. A planeswalker is just your opponent. Your opponent.
Oh, okay, got it. Okay, never mind.
That's why they call them Vanguard, is because they don't want to get the two instead of planeswalker, because they don't want to get it mixed up, because planeswalker means something in this game.
Okay, so if combat damage to your opponent, this support gains 1 shield. Okay, makes sense. When this support loses shield for the first time on your turn, does that mean like your opponent attacked and then like the shield lowers to like 3 or 2 or whatever?
No, there's a few ways it can lose shield. By far the most common is if either you or your opponent matches it in the match 3. Remember that supports are attached to specific gems on that list. Anytime it is matched, it loses 1 shield.
Okay, so your opponent can kind of like interact with this by matching their gems to it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but again, because you're playing against an AI, and the AI is not actually smart enough to specifically target your supports when matching.
Oh, got it. Okay. But if you played against a human, they would like go after this by like specifically targeting it and stuff.
Yeah, maybe. Although in this case, since the shield it starts with a fairly high number 4, so they might not bother. It might not be worth it.
That's fair.
Because it would be too hard to destroy that way anyway.
Okay. Let's see. When it loses shield for the first time on your turn, perform one of these effects at random. Oh my goodness. Your first creature gets +2/+2. Target creature gets -1/-1, and you gain 6 life. And you start with like a little over 100 life. So it's like...
Yeah, usually 100. You can't overheal. Again, like Hearthstone, you can't go over your maximum life. But something I should caution about when reading this card, a mistake I made a lot when I first started playing this game. There's a lot of effects that in Paper Magic would be until end of turn, that in this game are not until end of turn, that are permanent. And I just sort of assumed when I read those effects that they would be, but in this, the +2/+2 and the -1/-1, those are not until end of turn. Those are permanent.
Okay. Let's see. How do I evaluate this? It can gain a shield, so you can just keep on randomizing doing this. I would say gaining 6 life is like kind of not a priority unless you're playing against someone, another deck that's being very, very aggressive. The fact that if they're playing an aggressive deck, you have a 66% chance of like shrinking their thing, or gaining 6 life, or like giving your Reacher +2/+2 to be able to like block efficiently your opponent's thing. It's kind of like stays on the board for a long time and keeps gaining a shield. It's like kind of hard to get rid of because it's a 4 shield. The thing I'm trying to get at maybe is since it's at random, that definitely is a little bit worse. But the fact that if you put this in play, you kind of like almost never lose it unless your opponent has like specifically like kill target support card, which I think I've seen in a card or heard of.
Well, the Void Rend can destroy a support, but one thing that's actually kind of interesting about destroying supports in this game, usually cards will say, they won't say destroy target support, they'll say destroy a support, and you don't get to pick which of your opponent's supports is destroyed. It'll just pick one at random.
Oh, wow.
I think there's one mechanic that lets you pick. I think there's like 6 cards that have it, and none of them are good.
Okay, got it. I mean, it's GT though. Like, it's kind of hard for me to say that like a name like Umezawa is GT, like in standard, like that has to be good, right? Let's see. Whenever your support loses shield for the first time, it's really easy for you to proc this too. You lose shield, you attack them, you gain a shield. So you can like keep doing that every turn. You attack them, you gain a shield. You lose a shield, you do the thing, and it's easy for you to proc this. It's legendary. You can only have one, which like it's. I mean, it was.
Well, no.
Go ahead.
Legendary, there is no legend rule in this game. Legendary has no built-in rules meaning. It's just that there are some cards that care about legendary status.
Okay, so if you play another one of these, what happens?
It reinforces, meaning if you play this, it has 4 shields. You play another one, now you've got one with 8 shield.
I might be super wrong on this. I'm going to say this card's good.
I have never seen someone play this card.
No!
Now, partially that's just because it's the highest rarity. But so there's a big problem with this card. Partially it's the randomness, but also you remember I said that numbers are generally much higher in this game.
Mm-hmm.
-1/-1 ain't killing anything. The -1/-1 is the best ability on the Paper Jete. It's the one they added last in the development process. They didn't have time to properly playtest it, and they didn't realize it broke the card. Off the top of my head, I can only think of one like really top tier premium card and top tier premium creature in this game that has 1 toughness. +2/+2, even if they're permanent, these make your opponent's creatures smaller. They're not killing the creatures, and that's a really significant nerf to the card.
Okay, I just thought that if you could like just keep doing this over and over again every turn, and like you play one of this, and then like you just do the thing forever for the whole game, it's like it would add to the value. Maybe the -1/-1, you do that like 2 or 3 times throughout the game, and it would kill something. But the fact that it is random, but you do get to target the creature. So if something has like 3 toughness, and you get -1/-1, you gain 6 life, you get +2/+2, you get another -1/-1, blah blah blah. You can like kill things in combat way if they block you. I would think that would be like kind of good, but yeah.
Well, remember what I said before about reinforcing? They're also going to be casting more copies of their creature. So
they're going to reinforce theirs.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Oh well. Umezawa Jite sucks. All right. Let's go to the third card.
This one I think is also from Streets of New Capenna. I'm not 100% sure of that, but I think so.
I'll be able to tell you.
I guess I could just check. It's Streets of New Capenna. I just looked at the icon on the bottom.
This one is an uncommon from New Capenna. Quaza, Augur of Agonies. This card is an actual card in paper as well. Except for this card is not very good in paper. It's 12 mana. It is blue. It is Esper colors. You can play it in 26 decks. something that you said. It's a 3/4.
23.
23 decks. It's a 3/4. What is the symbol on the left side again? The white symbol?
Legendary.
Legendary, okay. It's a Cephalid Advisor, same thing as paper. When you draw a card, your opponent loses 2 life, and you gain 2 life. Whenever you draw a card. Okay. Blue does draw cards. White doesn't really draw cards. Black does draw cards as well. The fact that you can... But gaining 2 life is kind of weird because you start at like over 100, so like how many cards are you drawing is what really would make this card good. It's a 3/4, which is also kind of bad stats. If the life totals are that high, you would think this would be like a 6/7 or something. A 3/4 for 12, which would be like kind of like a 2 or 3 or 4 drop in Magic, is like for a 3 or 4 drop, maybe a 5 drop. 3/4 would be like pretty bad if it didn't have a significant upside. I mean, it's kind of hard for me to think that this card's good because the 12 seems pretty high. The 3/4 seems pretty bad for the amount of life you have. It just depends on if the draw cards in this game are like super good. And I know a lot of draw cards that are in standard, and there's not a ton of them that draw a lot of cards. There's a card in standard that's like double blue and X, draw X cards, which is a pretty fringe playable card in paper. I forgot the name off the top of my head. But if you had a card like that in this game, it would be nice. If Shield of the Apocalypse was in this game, it would like pair with this card. That would be pretty good. Even if Shield did the same
Shield
thing.
of the Apocalypse. Yeah, Shield of the Apocalypse is in this game and is insane, but does not actually do the same thing.
Oh, it doesn't do the same. Okay.
Yeah.
When you draw a card, your opponent loses 2 life and gain 2 life. Like, I like the effect. I just think the stats are a little bit poor. The mana to cast is like a little bit too high for me, I think. I'm going to say this card's not good.
This card is decent. It's not like exciting. There's a few combos you can do with it, but for the most part, the main reason it's played at all is because it's an uncommon. So it's a decent budget card, and it's also what I think of as a placeholder card. You're trying out a new deck. You want a 3rd creature. Most decks run 3 creatures. You're not sure what should be. You put this in there as a placeholder because it's never going to be like bad. It's a placeholder. Probably the finished version of the deck, you'll find something that synergizes a bit better, but you can put it in there. This game is generally more generous with card draw than Paper Magic is. But yeah, this is not like exciting. This is not insane or anything like that.
Okay. It's pretty medium, but it's like probably not going to make the final deck, but like you're going to put this in your deck when you're trying out your deck or a budget deck.
Yeah, and it's a good budget card for, as I said, for an uncommon, it's pretty good.
Okay, nice. I think I'll get a proper half point on that one.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to the.
I flipped heads for this one, but yeah. Okay. So next up, here's another
heads for that one. Okay, so this card is good. The Quaza.
Well, I chose. I don't know. You could call it's good-ish.
Okay.
I don't know. Really, what I should have done is I should really only have picked this card if the coin landed on its edge. Really.
Which you're never picking it in that case.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Sleep with the Fishes. Okay, this card's also in standard. This is also Streets of New Capenna, but no one plays this card. I don't think I've ever seen this card in not drafts or sealed. It's 11 mana spell card aura. Disable target opposing creature. Disable meaning turn off his abilities?
Meaning it can't attack, it can't block, and it has no abilities.
Okay, so it's almost the same thing as it does in paper. I'm pretty sure this card says like it can't attack or block. It's just like an aura that says that. Create a fish token. I think it also does.
Fish is a 1/1 unblockable. Interestingly, if this card were, I don't know the wording in Paper Magic, but if this card were worded the same in Paper Magic, it would actually work a bit differently than it does in this game, because in this game, you can cast it even if you don't have it target, if you just want the fish.
Let's see. It just depends on how much 11 is. You said that Quaza's 12 mana, right? So it's like, if I'm evaluating an uncommon like Quaza, and it is like kind of good, this card, it can't attack or block, and also his abilities are turned off. You said people only really play 3 creatures, and they're probably all really good creatures. Turning off their really good creature for a mana value like 11, that's probably less than the good creature they're playing, is probably good. Turning off their abilities and making a token giving you more creatures. When you play another Sleep with the Fishes, do you get a 2/2 token? Or do you get another fish?
You would reinforce, yes. You would get effectively a 2/2, yeah.
Let's see. And it's target creature. Man, how do I evaluate this card? See, Quaza is probably tripping me up here. For 12 mana 3/4, if that card is medium and there's better creatures than that, if you can nullify its abilities and make it not attack or block for less mana than that creature is, that'd be pretty good. But this card is unplayable in regular standard. And this card exists. It makes a 1/1 unblockable and it nullifies your opponent's creature. The problem with a card like that is if your opponent gets rid of the aura, which they probably can do, or sacrifices the creature for an ability, this card's terrible.
No, you. So this isn't an enchantment. This is a spell card. Auras, they can't get rid of the aura effectively. It's not like a separate thing that's attached to your creature. This is just, it now rewrites the card so it has this text, and then this is a spell card that goes to your graveyard. There's nothing for them to destroy.
Okay, how many sacrifice abilities are there? Is there like the same amount in regular paper? Does that work in this game?
I think probably there are fewer. I mean, I haven't done like a spreadsheet or anything. This was a new Capenna, which is the set with Casualty.
It would be interesting, like, do you play this and Void Rend because you're already playing Void Rend in your blue deck? And is this just another removal spell that you're playing if you're playing mono blue? I don't know if there's a better card than this in blue that kind of does the same thing. Maybe there's a card like the 1 mana blue card that like returns a creature to the hand and you scry one.
Unsummon?
Well, it's a better unsummon. It's called what is the name of the card? Off the top of my head, I can't remember the name of the card, but it's unsummon. But you scry one if it's mana value 3 or less in actual paper. That card exists. So, like, is this better than a card like that?
I don't. I'm trying to think of the cards that return a creature to your opponent's hand. Okay. There's also Endless Detour in this game, which returns a creature or
the top of the deck
to yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's Endless Detour is also from New Capenna, and that is a Bant card that I don't know how much mana that card is in this game or whatever, that you would also be able to play that. If Endless Detour is in this, it's 6? Wow.
Yeah.
If Endless Detour is in this game, like, this card's got to be worse than I think it is. Since it's not an aura, like, I'm going to say this card...
Endless Detour, though...
Go ahead.
Endless Detour, though, in this game can only target your opponent's creatures. You can't return your own creature.
Okay, I'm pretty sure in paper you can target your own stuff. Endless Detour. And Endless Detour also works with non-creatures as well, I think.
Endless Detour... Okay, so Endless Detour is like a Yu-Gi-Oh card in this game. You need like a magnifying glass to read the text. It works sort of like Void Rend in that it's, if you can return this, do that. If you can't, then do this, and does that. But it has a lot more lines, a lot more you have to go through.
Yeah, Endless Detour is a very similar card to Void Rend. It's like in the same cycle of It's in the same cycle as I believe Void Rend in paper.
Yeah, let me get the actual text of this thing. Well, I mean, it's got a similar thing where I think it starts with vanguards and then moves through creatures and supports and returning something from their graveyard to
you'd be able to play it in the same decks as you played Void Rend in for the most part, unless you like it just slots in green and not black. I'm gonna still say that I think this card is good. Sleep with the Fishes.
Yeah, this card is good. When it first came out, everybody was playing it, and that fact was form-warping. Because destroying a creature is a lot better than disabling a creature is a lot better than destroying a creature because of the way reinforcements work. If you destroy a creature, they can play a creature again next turn. Now they've got a creature. If you disable it, if they play it again next turn, well, it's still disabled. It just reinforces. It's almost like
mutate.
I'm sorry?
It's almost like mutate. Like the magic ability mutate. That you would mutate over the top of the card, but if it's disabled, then it's like disabled.
Yeah. So it's almost like, theoretically, there were some decks, if you didn't build your deck with this in mind, there's some decks that you could literally cast, if you got lucky with your draws, you could literally cast Sleep with the Fishes on all 3 of their creatures, and it was literally impossible for them to win the game.
Wow.
Now, and it's actually interesting that it was so successful because this was like the worst possible set for this card. It had a lot of good blue removal, like Endless Detour and Void Rend. It had Casualty. The fact that it was still as good as it was, it really speaks to it. partially, I think it was actually overplayed a bit because it was such an unusual effect that people like wanted to play with it. The popularity of it has died down a bit somewhat now. You don't see it quite as often. 11 is a little bit more than you'd want normally for a removal spell that only does creatures. But this is very good. Also interestingly, if it has sort of the thing like what was that card from Euphyrexy called? The one that counter target 1 mana spell or something like that, and you had to play it so you could counter your opponent's counter.
Oh wow. Yeah, that card is broken. Yeah, that card is
Yeah.
oh my
So it
god,
had
what
a
is that
similar
card?
thing here
It's
in
banned.
that
It's banned, yeah. Mental misstep.
It had a similar thing in that mental misstep. Thank you. It had a similar thing here in that Sleep with the Fishes can also work against your opponent's Sleep with the Fishes. Because let's say you've got 3 creatures, one of them is disabled. You can cast this. Now you've got a fish. You can say, okay, replace one of my existing creatures with that. And you could use that as just as a good way to get one of your creatures. But when this was being widely played, every deck you had to, when you were designing your deck, you had to say, okay, what if my opponent has Sleep with the Fishes? I need to put something in this deck to deal with that.
And then one of those cards to deal with that is Sleep with the Fishes because it makes the fish.
Yeah, I mean that's sort of a side benefit. The main reason you're doing it is because it's removal. But yeah, it does have the side benefit of also being good against their Sleep with the Fishes.
Comparing this card to comparing this card to a Mental Misstep is wild to me. But yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense.
Yeah, no, not nearly as good as Mental Misstep. It's just similar in that they. Yeah, right. Okay, now we've got the last one. This is one I know. Again, you'll recognize the card because this is one you showed someone else in one of your videos. This is the only card I'm showing you today that is not standard legal. This is a legacy card.
I remember showing someone this. Yep, I showed a Yu-Gi-Oh player this, and because I wanted them to see that you could play Yu-Gi-Oh in Magic. All right, we have 17 mana. Of course, I've seen Omniscience. I've played with it. I've played against it. So we'll see how good it is in this game. It's a 4 shield. It is legendary. It is from. Let's see if I remember that set symbol.
It's not legendary.
Oh, not legendary. Okay, then what is that left symbol?
That because this is the highest rarity of card. On those cards, they put the set symbol in the corner.
Okay, so that
as on the bottom.
So that is let's see, Hour of Devastation. It looks like, or Amonkhet.
Fuck if I know.
Amonkhet. It's either Amonkhet or
I forget actually.
Let's see. This is Amonkhet is when I started playing Magic. So that's pretty cool. Let's see. Support card enchantment. Each card in your hand costs 0 mana to cast. Okay, it just does that. Same thing. When you cast a creature, spell, or support, this support loses a shield. And when you lose a shield, does the card die?
When it gets to 0 shields, the card dies.
Interesting. Wow, this is way, I don't know, just worse than Omniscience is in paper because Omniscience just never dies unless your opponent gets rid of it. This one actually has a shield value. Wow. I mean,
oh yeah, if they had, well,
I mean, you're about to help me, weren't you?
I'll tell you what I said after I hear your.
Man, I don't know if you can like modify your shield count with like other cards. That would be pretty cool if you could do. I'm sure you can do it. If there's cards that have a shield value, I'm sure there are cards that say this like target thing gains more shield. Right? Are there cards that do that?
There might. I can't think of one off the top of my head, but that doesn't mean they don't exist.
Like, not that you would play that card. That card would be bad because it would require you to already have Omniscience in play. And if Omniscience is already a good card, if you put a bad card in your deck to make your already good card better, that's just a win more card, and that's just bad. But how good do I think this is in this game? Omniscience is a fringe playable card in paper Magic, obviously, but the decks that do play it are really, really broken in like the combo that they do. I mean, it's really hard for me to think that Omniscience is not good. But like, what if there's like an Emrakul in this game or whatever? You could just be like Omniscience, Emrakul. Like, how easy is it to put Omniscience in play?
There is Emrakul in this game, but there is Emrakul in this game. It is not. Let me see here. Emrakul, the Premise End. It's a 13/13 flying trample. Blah 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 blah. Yeah, it's a strong card. It's not like an insta win because it's only 13/13, which in this game is about like an eighth of your 10th to an eighth of your.
I'm surprised it's not like a
health.
40/40. in this game.
It does a bunch of other crazy things when it enters the battlefield, so it is still pretty strong.
Just like take your opponent's turn and all that stuff too, protection from instants, blah blah
blah. So Emrakul, the Promised End, it makes your opponents all their cards in their hand cost 13 more mana.
That's so
until
cool.
until your next turn.
Okay.
And it disables all your opponent's creatures until your next turn.
My goodness. What is the most mana value of a card in this game?
So there's one that costs 40, but it has a built-in mechanic to reduce its cost. You're never actually paying 40 for it.
Okay.
There are a few cards that cost 30. I think there's like 4 or 5 of them, something like that. That's exceptional, though. There are very few cards that cost that much.
Okay. Let's see. Is Storm an archetype in this game?
The Storm mechanic does not exist in this game.
Oh, man. How do I rate Omniscience?
The Storm keyword.
Oh, how am I to rate Omniscience? The fact that you just can't cast 12 spells and have this still stay alive, I have to say it's not good.
This is the best card in the game.
No! Puppies! No! No!
So here's the thing. Supports reinforce. If you have this in play, you cast another Omniscience, which of course
it's free.
Costs 0 because everything costs 0.
Yeah.
It adds its shields to this. You're playing blue, so you've got a lot of card draw. Probably what you want is card draw, ideally on a creature. Like Rashmi, Baral, Niv Mizzet Perrin.
Yep.
Any of those.
Yep. Draw cards.
Which say, whenever this happens, you get a thing. Here's what you do. You make this the only support in your deck. You get a bunch of cards in your deck that say, get the next support from your deck. You get like Word of Invention, Idyllic Tutor, Totem Guide Heartbeast,
yep.
Maybe Mirror Maid if you're feeling masochistic. Half your deck is either Omniscience or Ways to Find Omniscience, and that is not hyperbole. I do mean literally 5 of the 10 cards in your deck list are that. It's gaining shields more rapidly than it's losing them. Each time you cast Omniscience, you lose 1 because you've cost something, but you gain 4, so you net 3. You can play your entire deck. You've got effectively infinite cards, literally infinite mana. Under those circumstances, winning is trivial. It may just take a while, but once you have started your loop, you are going to win that game.
I just didn't know how like many spells you could really realistically play after this is in play. But I did miss that other Omnisciences could reinforce this. I mean, I knew that, but like, yeah. How are you getting like all of those cards and everything? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's not just that's the broken way to play. The thing is, though, that even if you're not doing broken things with it, even if you're just playing it fair, it's still a pretty good card. If you got like your 2-card combo, 3-card combo, you can play this. So you can play all 3 cards in your combo or whatever at the same time, because it's harder to disrupt a hand than it is to disrupt pieces that are already in play. So you want to keep them in your hand. 17 mana is not unreachable in this game. It's not like in Paper Magic where you have to find a way of cheating it out. You can hardcast it. You don't want to. There are better ways to do it, but if you want to, you can.
Is there is there a card like Repair and Recharge in this game where it's like put an artifact or enchantment from your graveyard into play and you like discard this card and bring it back? Like, is there a way to cheat this out?
I don't think I can't think of an example of that off the top of my head. I think this game in general has less graveyard interaction than Paper Magic, but there are plenty of cards that just say like get the next one from your library, and your library is effectively infinite. You have an infinite number of cards. You only have 10 individual cards, but you have an infinite number of copies of each one, so you're never going to run out of Omnisciences.
Wow, I like this. I like that this card is the best deck, the best card in the game. I like that it is, and I'm sad that I got it wrong.
There's a lot of people who are really salty about this card who think it needs to be nerfed in some way, and I used to be one of those people, but then something really important that happened that made me change my mind and realize that this is actually a good card in the game, which is that I got a copy of it.
Yeah, that's so funny. You're like, oh, I got this card? Okay, it's good. That's so funny. It's like when you get like grief scammed in Modern or whatever, when like they look at your hand for free and then they like look at your hand twice for free. You're like, man, I really hate this card. Why does this card exist? But then when you play it yourself, you're like, oh my gosh, I love this card.
And the thing about Omniscience, very unlike Paper Magic, is that when this card wasn't standard, it was still very good. You couldn't make it quite loop quite to the same extent that you can in Legacy because you got fewer cards, but it was definitely one of the best cards in Standard at the time. I don't know if it was the literal best as it is in Legacy now, but it is definitely in the top 5, I would say.
Super cool. All right. Well, I really like that this game has good cards in paper that are bad in this game, and also bad cards in paper that are good in this game. Notably, Umezawa Jite is bad in this game, and Sleep with the Fishes is good in this game, which is very interesting. And also cards that are good in paper are also still good in this game, like Omniscience. Like, it's good in paper, it's also good in this game. Void Rend is like okay in paper, but it's also pretty good in this game. So this is a game that I would kind of like to just play a 4-minute game or whatever in my free time and get the game. This is making me want to get it for sure.
Yeah. I mean, game is free. You can you can pay for premium content, but the game itself is free.
Nice.
It's not pay to win, but it's pay to get the cards more quickly.
Pay to win faster.
Yeah. Pay to speed.
Pay to speed. Yeah. Okay. Well, OmgPuppies, thank you very much for coming on the show. You are a Patreon patron, so you get to do one of these videos per month. If you do want to do one per month, you do get one. If you would like to be on the show yourself, and you can click the Patreon link down in the description below and see all the details there. Also, you can use code TheOneJame at ProdigyGames.com. You can click the link down below and use code TheOneJame to get 5% off of literally anything in your order, pre-releases, anything like that. Thank you once again for coming on the show, and I will see you again next time. And as always, peace.
Okay. Yeah.